not enough, I guess.
Okay.
Are you looking for someone in particular to talk, or just the whole group?
No. I just all of you.
Just
like,
someone to
At
talk.
the same
Finding
time,
the
do you want us
balance.
all just to
Chant a sea chanty.
like
Start talking.
Yeah, it could be a
I mean,
cacophony.
we all talk over
Like
each
never
other.
stop
We
saying
talk.
words
But
while
do you
everyone
want
else
us
is
to do it
saying
one at a
words.
Well, we
time?
usually
How
talk
hard
over
can
each
we
other,
make
so
him
might as well
just
talk
keep
Because I don't
over each
know
other
if the
now.
levels are showing out of the
That sounds
fucking
pretty good
roof,
to me.
and you're just like
Quite
trying to balance everybody. But if that's what you're trying to do, then we can do that. But
No, that was good. Cool.
Pitter patter.
welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. I'm your host, Opie, and I'm joined, as always, by Kevin,
Hello.
Alex.
Hi.
Why is that weird?
What?
What happened?
Kevin said hello before you stopped talking, at least to me, so I might be delayed.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well then, that was Alex, David,
Hello.
and Pete.
Howdy, y'all.
Another smooth opening.
Yeah.
I might need to leave and come back. You guys are super delayed for me.
Oh, really?
Everyone's saying hello before you stop talking for me. So I don't know if it's you or me, but it's one of us.
Yeah. When you're talking right now, you seem fine.
Yeah, you seem normal on our end.
It's interesting.
Then I'll stay and we'll see how this goes.
Okay. Well, you have some time as we open up because this episode we're going to be devoted to the Snyder cut of Justice League that came out this week. So spoilers ahead for sure. So if you haven't seen it, definitely watch that before you listen to this episode. And as any DCEU offering brings us, this episode will go anywhere. So we're going to reserve the bulk of the time for that. But before we get to that, we were going to talk about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which premiered. Was that last night or the night before? Oh, I say it was
Friday.
Friday.
A couple of nights ago. So again, also if you haven't seen that, then I don't know. There's really much to spoil, honestly, in that episode, but we may spoil something. And then we didn't really watch anything from our franchises this week because we knew we weren't going to get to them. And the only other thing to really talk about before we get into it is Pete, you're watching a show that's actually
I started
before.
Yeah, it finished up. I want to say like 2 years ago. Actually, the final season was, but I started watching The Newsroom on HBO Max. I had watched the first season like religiously, and then when it was originally broadcast, the first 2 episodes of the second season, and it just lost touch. Life got in the way, and so I've gone back and started watching it again, and it's like absolutely perfect Aaron Sorkin at his best. Like it's just a amazing dialogue. All the actors are perfectly keyed in. Even the characters you hate, you absolutely love. Like it's just a great fucking show, and it just centers around basically like a cable news network's nightly primetime news that goes on, and just the ins and outs of that. And it opens up the first episode with what's become kind of virally famous of Jeff Daniels is at a fucking like a lecture at a college, and
Why Is America
Great again, exactly. That speech basically opens the entire show. It's a cold open for the entire series.
Oh wow.
And it's kind of him coming back from that, and this woman who cheated on him, who is now his producer, and their whole relationship and the way it goes, and just the ins and outs of this other couple. And it's cool because they weave in actual events as they happen and report on them. And you kind of, it's almost what I loved about Studio 60 in the same way, is that you kind of see what's behind, but you never see really the actual news program.
Does that hold up as much now that it's a couple years later? Like those events aren't quite as fresh in your mind?
That's why it almost works better, because I'm almost like reliving them the same way they're getting them as news, because there is a little bit of distance. Like I had forgotten about the whole, like the first episode. There's this whole thing with the Deepwater Horizon. Do you guys remember that? Yeah, Deepwater Horizon was when this big offshore oil rig in the middle
Mark
of the
Wahlberg
Gulf.
did a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I remembered about it.
I'm sure I rushed out to see that one.
Well, it's based on that true story. That's the only reason. I didn't see it. I just know that's why I know about it.
This oil well explodes, and there's this whole thing with Halliburton didn't, correctly do something with cement. It was supposed to work.
Vaguely familiar. Yeah, I sort of remember that.
Well, exactly. I had completely forgotten about this, but watching this, they basically play it back for you, and you kind of get the information as it unfolds out to the world. So it's kind of cool. They do, there's a bunch of news stories that go through like that. It's just a really, really good show. It's solid. It's funny. It's sad. It's depressing, angering, uplifting, like all at the same time.
That Why Is America Great clip, you see it all the time. It pops up all the time. So I've watched it. Every time I see it, I'm like, I'm going to watch this again. But I don't know if I ever even knew what show it was from. It's just a great clip, so I just always watch it. But
it's funny that you're watching Sorkin and talking about Sorkin, because my wife's been watching Gilmore Girls. And I feel like, even though it's not the same thing, that creator, Amy Sherman Palladino, has a very specific writing style. She also does Miss Maisel.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I was like, dude, if her and Sorkin did a show together, like, it'd be insane.
Oh, the pacing that the actors would have to figure out to go through that. Like it's, and the show is, aside from just the writing itself, the direction, Thomas Schlamme does, a ton of this again, and it's so well filmed to boot that the walk and talks are amazing. You feel like the newsroom is your home as you're watching it. Like, where stuff is in the newsrooms. Like, you could be at one angle and you look and you're like, oh, I know the conference room is over there. I know Will's office is there. Mackenzie's office is there, just because of how they move through the scenery. You get to know it, and the actual building is almost as much a character as another member of the show. So go watch it.
Recommend it?
Fucking A, yes. God,
fucking A.
Crazy.
Fucking A.
What was it called?
Newsroom. It's on HBO Max.
HBO Max.
It only got 3 seasons. And it's like, I think the first season's 13, second season's 13, and the last season's only 9.
Hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. I'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Sorkin, then it's one of those things where if you watch Aaron Sorkin shows, you can see an Aaron Sorkin show like a mile away.
What else has Aaron Sorkin done?
Sports Night,
West Wing. He wrote A Few Good Men.
That's a movie.
He did the Social Network too, right?
He did Social Network.
He did something else recently too.
The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's nominated for it.
Yeah. All right.
Crudes 2.
The Crudes 2 is Sorkin. All right. I got it.
That'd be awesome.
Now he's in. Yeah.
Well, obviously it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I actually think you'd really dig it, just because of how like we always talk about like comedic timing, and how the timing of a line when an actor delivers it sometimes is more important than what they're actually saying. And so much of Sorkin's writing depends on that. And an actor being able to drop a line like right when it has to go, and in that perfect little rhythm. And all the actors do that so well. Like it's just this great little dance.
I'd be really interested. I'd be interested to see if that was, I know it's him, I'm sure, but I'd be interested to see if he demands that in the moment, or if it's a trick of editing, that he's just really adamant about that.
I don't know. Since all of his shows are very clearly in his voice. So if you watch West Wing, if you watch Sports Night, if you watch Newsroom, they all have the same pacing and tone. So I think it's something that comes out of the script and the direction more than the editing.
That's good. That's what I would prefer.
It's a lot of long shots. They let the camera roll. They don't. There's not a lot of editing, so it's mostly letting the actor do the thing.
Well, good. Yeah. That's the better of the two options.
Yeah, like I was just more curious. West Wing, that building, the way they do it, like they're like Scorsese worthy walk and talks throughout the entire series, where it's just one long shot that these guys are walking through the White House and there's no real discernible cut. Cool. You can tell obviously where they did, but it's the same thing with Newsroom. It's just really well done. Like it's one of those now that I can't remember why I dropped it. Like, you know, why I never went back to it. And I'm like, it's total quality show.
Cool.
For sure.
All right. Well, that's our episode.
All right, then. Thanks for being here.
Have to wait again for next week for the Snyder.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. Get that Snyder.
All right, everybody.
It's our curse.
All right. And last week we talked about Coming to America, but David and Alex have not seen it or had not seen it. And David this week got a chance to take a gander. And Alex, you still have not seen it, correct?
I probably never will.
Yeah, probably never will.
I did a rewatch.
So, yeah, and Pete did a rewatch. So, David, how you did send a couple texts, a couple live tweets.
Yeah. I think it made it pretty clear.
But
huge fan.
Yeah.
It. I think that the original review from Pete and Kevin was pretty on point. It was not a good film. I can't even really particularly point to anything in the film that was good and be like, they did this well, because
other than the casting, like that was the only thing. Like they got everybody back, and after that was like everybody their achievements.
And the kid who played the son really was a pretty good casting for a young Eddie Murphy. I mean, it didn't help that he had a shit part and the dialogue was terrible and the plot was god awful and everything else. I mean, everything with Wesley Snipes was offensive. And I mean, one of my notes in here was Louis Anderson is still alive, because he really looked like it when he came. I was like, holy shit, he's old.
He's still working. Well, they just finished Baskets. He won. I think he won.
He did
for
a couple years ago.
He played Zach Galifianakis's mom on the show Baskets. That's hilarious.
Perfect casting.
Really good. Yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, so he's still alive.
And then the barking princess gag was so terrible.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Then I have a note here. It says Eddie looks fat.
Aw.
Eddie looked fat. There's like one scene where like Eddie was laying down and you're like, yeah, man, look, Eddie's like, you know, he's kept it together. And then Eddie stood up and you're like, nope. He did not keep it together. The musical acts that they brought in, Midnight Train to Zamunda. I mean, it was all cringeworthy. It was so bad. They had In Vogue and Salt and Pepper, and you're just like, ugh. I mean,
God.
I think I described it as like a Shrek sequel where they just like threw whatever random pop culture they could find that was relevant at the time in. This movie is not going to age well. One of my favorite parts.
Hasn't.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts is that he goes to find his son, a son he didn't really know he had ever met, because apparently he smoked some weed that was so strong he thought he fucked a boar instead of Leslie Jones. Which, okay, whatever. I've had my weed in the day, and I've never had anything that strong. So good on him for finding that when he comes to the U.S. But then he has this sketch that like the witch doctor made of his son, which has got to be accurate, right? He takes it to the barbershop, and they're like, yeah, I know that dude, and I know right where he is right this second in New York City. I was like, oh, okay, that's real believable. And then,
it's not a big place though, so
just terrible. There's nothing. There is one fourth wall break that Eddie does, and it is like the worst one I've ever seen. Like the timing is god awful, and it just doesn't land, and you're just like, what was that? Come on, man. And then I have to agree wholeheartedly with Pete that the Randy Watson cameo was flat. It was not good.
It's the one I was waiting for that I was like, when it didn't show up early on, I was like, okay, I knew it was going to be a closer. It was going to be towards the end. And so I kept waiting for it. And I was like, this, honestly, if this is good, it could redeem the whole movie for me. And it's just so bad.
Yeah, there's the energy to it is terrible. The song that they chose, and then they make the changes to it and scream sexual chocolate, which is funny in the first movie, the way it's presented, but in this, it just seemed desperate. And yeah, there was nothing redeemable about this film.
But like 8 out of 10 or
So I actually, with my rewatch, slightly disagree with you about its kind of rewatch. No, with its rewatchability. It's still a horrible film. But when you go back and watch it again and you know what you're going to see, it's so absurdly bad. You just wind up laughing at how bad it is because you know it's coming. It's like an hour and a half of like decent dad jokes that make you chuckle because of how fucking stupid they are. And that's what it's like on a rewatch. So if you watched it again, it's still as fucking horrible, but it's at least fun to watch.
Pete got the second time around Jones weed before he watched.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Fuck. Like I think he just did it because I don't even understand what he just said. It's the worst thing you'll ever see, but it's great.
But it's really bad. But if you watch it again, it's still really bad, but also really good.
But it's also better.
No, it's almost not
had that happen with movies before. So
it's not to put it on the same caliber, but it's almost like when you've watched The Room, when you're watching it with someone, and even though you're not watching them, you're watching the kind of thing, and it's so stupid and ludicrous.
No, your statement is stupid and ludicrous. That it's almost like you've forgotten. It's like, yeah, I've seen The Room, but you've forgotten that The Room.
How dare you besmirch Tommy Wiseau?
That's just ridiculous.
Our Lord and Savior.
I'm willing to.
I'm not comparing the two movies. I'm comparing the watching experience.
No, you just lost your talking privileges with that one.
In my notes, I did find the one bright spot in it was I thought the Trevor Noah cameo was actually funny.
Oh, he's in it?
I did enjoy Trevor Noah in it, yeah. He plays like a Trevor Noah, but in Zamunda, like as a Zamundan correspondent.
Funny.
Yeah, I'll accept that that Cats might be room quality or caliber to the point where I'm not willing to watch Cats willingly. So, all right. Well, you make a lot of good points, David.
Well, you still stand by your original?
Absolutely.
He hasn't rewatched it.
Although
so.
I've never. If you listen back to, I don't believe I ever argued any of your guys' points either. It's like,
no. I'll give you that. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I accept all that. And I'm not saying it's good, but it makes me laugh because it does make me want to rewatch it again now to see, see if I see it differently. Like it's like, wow, this did not age well, and it's only been a week. So, all right. Well, next on the agenda is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier premiere, which is the 6-part miniseries.
6 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it looks like they'll all probably be about an hour-ish, I imagine.
Yeah, 45 to an hour, I think.
Yeah. I think
so. See if maybe if they, as it goes on, get maybe a little longer, like WandaVision did. So we watched it the other night, and overall enjoyed it. It looked really good. I mean, I thought the cinematography and just the action and just the characters and stuff, I thought it was really good. It was interesting how where they're picking up. It seems as if it's got to be within. I don't know if they mention anything, but like within a year.
It's a few months after Endgame.
A few months?
Yeah. So I think it goes Endgame, Wanda, Falcon, and then Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 2.
I think they said that it was about 6 months.
I think so too.
How long that that Sam had the shield before he handed it over to the Smithsonian.
Yeah, they did mention a time. It was some minor amount of months for sure. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. But yeah, it's not too far after Endgame.
Okay. Yeah, and, like I said, it's before Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, this episode is really a lot of kind of setup. You're seeing just, you know, the aftermath. You know, Sam is kind of getting on with his life in a way. You see him they introduce family members, just kind of like his own storyline. You kind of, obviously only being 6 episodes, I imagine, you know, we're going to see a lot happen quickly, and, you know, as it starts, you know, get going. I imagine the next one will probably be something that'll be really revealing or worth, you know, really discussing. I didn't feel like anything too big happened in this one.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't even see Winter Soldier's arm at all, which I'm like, yeah, that's one of the cool things to see is, you know,
but incognito pretty much the whole
flashback scene when he like tears shop, and
that was kind of cool.
That was the old arm though.
Innocent by
that was his like
his Winter Soldier.
That was Winter Soldier
era days.
Yeah. What I thought was really cool was just that the action was so much better than the action that was in WandaVision, because there are 2 different stories, right? Like WandaVision was all about the story and everything in the background, and that opening scene with him and the helicopters and all that looked so good. But that's what they were. I mean, it's the difference between the 2 shows, right? Is that they were going for action, realism, and stuff like that. And I thought it looked really good.
But they still did a good job of like emotionally introducing the characters as well, like where they are, like in their heads at the time the show starts.
That whole Japanese dude with Bucky, that was heavy.
Another thing is that just based on the age of that dude and the age of the son, like that was probably right before the events of Captain America and the Winter Soldier, because that just the age of the guy makes me think that he was already kind of old. His son was middle-aged, not middle-aged, but like 20s or something like that when he got killed. So it wasn't that long ago. At least it seems like it, which is like, he was operating for quite a while up until the events of that movie, which is nuts to think about.
So, that helicopter, you know, chase scene was pretty cool. See Jean-Claude Van Damme. No, not him. George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
Back from Winter Soldier as well.
So, yeah, I mean, it was entertaining. My kids were really excited. Like, I came home from work and like, you know, Falcon the Winter Soldier came out today. We got to watch it tonight. So, so they're excited about that.
It's funny too. The internet is blowing up with everybody just ripping on the dude as the new Captain America.
Derpy Captain America.
Yeah, because he looks so doofy, like for whatever reason. But they're not calling him USA. Like they've already just straight up called him Captain America.
Yeah.
Whereas in the comics he was U.S. agent. So that's interesting. And he's Kurt Russell's kid.
Is that who that is?
America. Yeah, Wyatt Russell. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. Yeah,
I can see it in the jawline now that you say that. But the jawline and then with the ears exposed, I mean,
and then he's got no lips, so he just looks weird.
And you know, it's interesting when you go to his IMDb page, the first big picture they've got of him, he's completely bearded, so you wouldn't like.
Well, if you got a chin like that, you probably need a beard.
Yeah.
I think actually just looking back, he's in Black Mirror.
Yeah, he's done a couple of things, but he hasn't done a lot.
Yeah. Well, he's had a beard actually from looking at this. I'm remembering him from a couple of things. He's had a beard in almost everything he's done. So that's why I think it was hard to kind of, not that he was that like recognizable anyway.
Yeah.
But that it's
stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's only in the episode for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it happens. Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah, so
really.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
What's funny though is like
good episode, but there's ultimately just not a lot happens. There's no real hook. We like the characters aren't invested in anything yet. Everything's happening in the background. I got to say that for a first episode for a 6-episode arc, I thought it was a little weak. I think that they could have done a little better job. I understand the character building and all of that stuff, but they needed to tie it all together a little bit better, or do what WandaVision did and give us 2 episodes back to back, if that's what it's going to take to get the hook. Because I don't even know who the bad guy is. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not supposed to yet.
References in this. You know, it just kind of feels like right now it's the story of these 2 characters. I can tell you that my daughter was fairly disappointed. Like when we finished it, she was like, okay, you know, she wasn't too hot on watching it to begin with. And then with this, she, you know, it didn't make an impression.
I hope Marvel knows.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was, it feels like so far, like the movie, The Winter Soldier, just stretched out. So because that movie has a lot of character building at the beginning, and then there's the tanker scene, obviously, which is all action, but then it goes back to like character building. It felt like that just like pulled a little, like stretched thin, I guess you could say, which is fine because they still have 5 more episodes to do a bunch of shit. So that's why I was like, yeah, that's fine. It's all set up. It's what you'd expect essentially. I liked the vibe of it. I thought it was filmed really well. It's nice really getting more of Sam and Bucky, because for the most part they've been relegated to really background characters with some funny lines and some cool action scenes, but you don't learn much about them unless it's like crucial to the plots of the movies. And it's nice to kind of get a little bit more. It was cool seeing Bucky kind of have a list, like almost like Steve did, where Steve just had to see things that he'd missed, but Bucky's was like a condolences list essentially, or like a make amends list. Yeah. And it was just kind of cool to see that mirror. I have a huge boner for Bucky, if I'm being honest. So I just like seeing anything with him in it. He's one of my favorite MCU characters, and it's nice to see him fleshed out a little bit more. As much as I like him as like a ruthless badass, it is cool to get him humanized a smidge. So I'm curious to see where his story will go. Sam too, but I don't know. I've always liked Bucky a lot more.
Sam was good. I liked what they did with that. It was neat that, you know, he's the idea that he's going to be the next Captain America, and kind of the problems he's having are like these all-American problems, if you will, of like, you know, our small business is going down.
Yeah.
Interesting. That Bucky character, Sebastian Stan, now that we are getting more of that, and he's not kind of in that weird, like almost medicated state that he's seen in the other one, where he's like coming out of trauma. He's the interactions with his therapist, that whole scene was just fucking great. Like she'd prop out the notebook, and just his reactions, the way he plays it really helped you humanize a character that, when you really think about it, the only bits that we got to see of him as kind of a character were maybe like really 5-10 minutes in the first Captain America movie.
Oh, in the first Captain America, sure, before he became Winter Soldier.
But once we're in once you get past that and he becomes Winter Soldier, when he's introduced there, it's not even 5 minutes that he's like a character. Like even in Civil War, you know, when they're Civil War? Anyway, they're, you know, just the Sam and Bucky interactions are the best thing that they have going on.
Yeah, that's Civil War.
That always made me laugh, because when I remember like seeing that in the theater, when I walked out of Civil War, I said to my wife, I was like, dude, they need to make just something with just those 2.
Yep.
Because their interaction in the back seat of the Volkswagen, and when they're fighting Spider-Man, they were so funny. They were so great.
Yeah, they were good together. I was a little bit like, I don't want to say I was not a fan of it, but when that scene started with the therapist, I was a little concerned because Sebastian Stan didn't really impress me too much from an acting perspective. But then I just kind of thought about it for a second, and I'm like, he doesn't really know how to be a human anymore. So he is going to be a little bit more robotic, and his responses are going to be kind of monosyllabic and monotone. And when I kind of just put it into that lens, I was like, it makes more sense. Like you can tell that he's feeling stuff, but he's so used to not showing emotion that it's hard for him to get it out. Because you could really see it later when he went to the old man's house and saw the photo of the son. I was like, okay, there it is. Yeah. Like, it wasn't even words. It was just like his face. And I was like, okay, like it makes sense in terms of his character. Cause I was a little concerned. I was like, oh, maybe they had Sebastian Stan not talking for a reason, even though I know he's a good actor. I've seen him in other things, but then I was like, no, it does actually, it tracks with Bucky as like an individual. So I was like, I was more okay with it. Like in retrospect than I was when I saw it.
Yeah, and you actually feel bad for him when he walks out on that date.
Yeah,
because she doesn't know what she's saying to him, and breaks him a little bit.
Yeah, it was good, and there was good chemistry between the two of them. Like I bought that. Like a lot of times they'll kind of throw little like first date kind of things into shows, and you watch the two people and you're just kind of like, eh. But this I bought that they were kind of vibing off of each other, and why it took him so out of it in that moment. Like, because it was like you could tell he's starting to live again in a way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he's trying.
And dude, when he sees that picture, that was a little. That was a little bit of a gut shot.
That was a moment, man. That was a gut shot for sure. Marvel knows how to do it.
Yeah,
it was fun. Who doesn't know how to do it all the time is DC.
Ham-fisted segue.
That worked beautifully, and you know it.
Smooth like chunky peanut butter.
Let's get into it.
Let's just do it. We're
delaying it. I know.
We're delaying it.
Falcon and Winter Soldier was good, but let's just rip off the Band-Aid and roll into it. We can talk about that more next week when there's 2 episodes. Let's
One thing to keep into consideration is that David's the only one here who hasn't seen the original release. So his perspective.
I'm sorry.
His perspective is a little different. So there's only one thing I think we will all agree on, with exception of David, since you hadn't seen it before, is that regardless of our individual opinions of the Snyder Cut Justice League, this version was hands down better than the original. Would we all agree?
Unequivocally.
Yeah. Okay. Now, that's not to say. Well, you know what? Before I say anything, is there anything anybody else wants to say?
I think David should go first. That's what
I'm really interested to hear it. I'm so glad that one of us hasn't seen it.
Okay, good. I was gonna say before I say anything, David, by all means, the floor is yours. What were your impressions of Snyder Cut?
So I live tweeted the whole thing, which is great for me because no one follows me on Twitter. So it's like a notepad that I can take with me everywhere. It's magnificent.
There you go.
So
now I'm going to follow you on Twitter.
Right.
So here I'll start with this final thoughts. I thought the film was meh. It was bloated and the CGI was so subpar and way overused. Zach could have cut at least an hour out, tightened this up, and used the money to improve the look of the film. But even then, it still wouldn't be as good as most Marvel films. So that's my just like elevator pitch review.
But I'd say that's more than fair.
All fair.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are completely valid points. And if you now go back and watch the original Justice League.
Oh
yeah, no, I think I will. Yeah. I think I'm going to at some point.
You never should.
You should really don't for like a punishment.
Yeah, it's for it's the only reason to do it is for analysis.
Seriously, what you've seen, I don't
like you'll get a little angry, honestly. Like if no, really, because you in watching this, when you see what it.
You gonna get through a sentence tonight or what?
Yeah, when you because this real it was the Snyder Cut, but there's still a ton of Joss Whedon footage in there, right? So it's what he wanted, but not completely. But it's still
not
so much better than was there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's still so much
you
better.
Think this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted.
Is not what Snyder wanted at all. They literally chopped the movie in half. It was from 4 hours to 2. I don't think Snyder originally intended to use all 4 hours, but he filmed all 4 hours. And then he was going to edit it himself. And then,
well, he did reshoots too for this new one.
A few, but really not that many.
Well, they gave him $70 million to work with to do this.
A lot of that was towards the re-CGing of things like Steppenwolf.
Like, dude, yeah.
Dark Side and everything.
Does Steppenwolf look different than he did in the?
He looks so much fucking better, bro.
He looks way cooler now. He looked awful in the first one. Awful.
I wasn't overly impressed with the way he looked in this one, and if we're being honest, I thought he was a terrible villain.
Oh, dude, go watch the first season. Yeah.
But the first one, take that out of it. Like,
that's fair, but you have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yeah, your criticisms are totally valid, except they're so super invalid.
When he showed in this film, you have no idea what his name is until you're almost 2 hours into this film. You're not entirely sure what he wants, other than he wants these boxes. You have no fucking idea what the boxes mean or what they want until almost 2 hours in.
Okay.
Right.
And still watch the first one.
Keep going.
Is that the same? Like
the 2 hours,
those boxes.
The 2 hours that the first one was, because that was the total runtime of the first one. You still really don't know what they are at the end, and really what he wanted to do with them. So you're correct.
We're still on par here.
See, here's my problem too: is that I only saw Justice League once.
The Justice League,
Justice League. But I did see Batman versus Superman a couple different times. I saw 2 different versions of it. So in a sense, I have a hard time remembering what was Justice League and what was.
I'll tell you all about it.
Well, outside.
Yeah, I actually watched it last week before the new one dropped.
Or Justice.
Yeah, the original.
That's right.
I watched it like Tuesday.
Yikes.
Because I wanted to have that lens to be able to compare, because I didn't remember most of it.
Yeah.
I remember that I didn't enjoy it a whole lot. I didn't hate the first one. It just wasn't great. Like it just wasn't like when
it had
with the world we're living in, when we have so many Marvel movies that are good, it's hard to see a bad superhero movie at this point.
Yeah.
I have a question real quick. Just because I know I'll forget. Do you think that girl has to come out and sing every time Arthur goes back into the water?
For 45 minutes.
Yeah, for like that was the first when that scene started. I was like, you could have cut that. And I was like, that's your 4 hours.
Like it would have been fine to hear her give like a couple lines of the verse and then cut away. Or I was even thinking, still have her audio, but switch it to the next scene visually to have it like transition. But it's just focused on her for like a whole song. I was like, what is this about?
Sniffing the sweater, and you're like, okay, it's kind of.
Well, creepy. I mean, if I found she's a little more sweater, I'd sniff it too.
Was any of that in the original?
No.
Nope. None of that. None of that.
No, because what happens? He goes into the water, and then he turns around, says something silly, and like dives into the water.
Yeah.
Like
in this one, you don't even see him dive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's
this one they show a little bit more respect.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm totally lost. What scene are we talking about?
The one where the Jason Momoa or I should say Aquaman and Batman are talking on the shore when he first finds him. Yeah. And then when he leaves, there's that woman, like that chorus of women who are just singing as he departs, but it just focuses on them for no joke, like a minute and a half of them just singing, and you're like, what is going on?
In a foreign language, so it's not like we're getting anything from the song. They don't put subtitles up. We don't know what the words are.
Oh, you didn't understand that?
Yeah. My conversational Swedish class got canceled, so I didn't.
It was in Atlantean.
That was one thing that I was like, every character that they basically introduced back into the film had their own, late 80s video montage of like, it's like, Jesus, it's like, can it be more dramatic? Can it, it's like everybody. And then Wonder Woman has her high rockin' every time she comes into battle. It's her, entry music.
Her theme, yeah.
That theme though, that was one of the things that I loved hearing about this though. Again, which is one of the things I hated about Wonder Woman 84, because I think they give her one of the best themes in all of superhero-dom. It's just real catchy and cool and recognizable, and her stuff in this movie was just as good as it was in the first one.
disagree entirely. It was so much better. It was so much better in this.
No, I don't know if it was better, but it wasn't good. That whole opening scene where she was punching bullets was totally mocking.
Yeah, I hated that.
It was awful. It doesn't even track with anything that they've done in any of the films with her previously. Like,
so in every film that she's been in,
movie.
Yeah, at this point, when this first came out, she had only been in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
That is true, but she does punch bullets in her first movie.
She blocks them, but not like I chased an entire machine gun firing, 40 rounds in 3.5 seconds.
It's like 80 years later, man. She's just better than she was. You know what I mean?
She's that much faster. She's like everyone in this film has super speed. Like
pretty much
Batman, who has super nothing.
Yeah,
he has a super big.
He's rich. He says that. Yeah. What's your superpower? Oh, I'm rich.
Yeah, I will say that Batman was entirely wasted in this film. He does almost nothing.
His acting was, that's for sure.
Batfleck is terrible. Like anyone who wants to defend
terribly
him,
awesome,
you're more than welcome to do so.
I will.
I didn't hate him. We got more of him, and I didn't hate him.
Hey, Bruce Wayne isn't very good
for him. He's
because
good.
And David, you said this in the when you were
now anything you have to say about it is valid, Kevin, because you fucking hate Affleck. So it doesn't fucking matter.
He can't choose a Bruce Wayne or a Batman voice. Like he'll just be Bruce Wayne, and then it'll just be like Batman.
I'll give you that.
And you're like, wait, dude, you're Bruce Wayne right now, buddy.
Yeah, his voice is it's so affected. It's worse than Christian Bale's. At points, especially in it was chapter 1 or 2, he sounded like Star-Lord trying to compete with Thor. His deep voice growl was so cheesy. Like when he was talking to Aquaman, he's trying to man up when they were in that shack. And I was just like, oh my God, Ben Affleck, you are just getting killed.
Yeah, if he had just used his normal voice, his part would have been better. And the bummer is that Batman in anything Snyder, Batman is awesome. Like Batman, Alex, you tweeted us the photo of the fight from the first one where he fucks everybody up in that building. And Batman's a badass. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It could have been anybody in that suit. That's my problem, is that Ben Affleck doesn't bring anything to the character. And he is definitely better in this one than he was in the first one. And I even like him in this more than I like him in Batman versus Superman. I just don't he's not very good. So Batman, the character, is pretty great, but the acting behind Bruce Wayne mostly is where my complaints lie.
This iteration of Batman's that good, right? Like if you do the comparison, Batman is pretty much Tony Stark, right? Like they're both playboy billionaire philanthropist geniuses, right? They hide behind their toys and that's how they go out. They're very similar characters. But Batman is just emo fucking Iron Man, right? But in this version, he's not even the genius. The genius is Alfred does most of the work.
They get into it for a minute when he's trying to fix the plane. That's the only time you see him doing anything that's remotely crafty.
See, I felt like after watching this and seeing some of the reshoots that they obviously did with Affleck, he's trying to do Batman from the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel.
No, for sure.
He's tried to do that older, I'm in, late 50s, almost early 60s Batman.
Speaking of Affleck as Batman too, the one thing that was a bummer for the character was when they did the reshoots and they had that scene at the end, because he was much slimmer.
Oh yeah.
He looked a little methy almost.
Yeah, he was very thin. In his his lakeside house.
And it was supposed to be a week later or a month later or something. What? You're like, ooh.
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But no, for me, I don't hate him. He's definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen or anything. But I just feel like Batman's tricky anyways, because I think anybody can play Batman
and to a degree. Apparently is trying to.
And it's where the talent for Batman really usually comes in is in Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Because you got to have that dichotomy, but because when it's an action movie, you don't see Batman most of the time. You see somebody kicking ass, and you see this much of their face. So it really, like, it's an easier character to play, in my opinion.
I think there's different Bruce Waynes, though, also that you have to take into account. There's the Bruce Wayne face, which he plays more of in Batman versus Superman, where he's in public when he goes to Lex's party, and he has to kind of play aloof and be like, oh, is this the bathroom? And be like a drunk billionaire who just womanizes and stuff like that. And then there's actual Bruce Wayne, who he's more of now with these people who they already know his identity. They know what he's about. And so he
tells everyone, like, at the drop of a hat in this film. Like, and by the end, when Lex Luthor is like, oh yeah, by the way, it's Bruce Wayne, you're like, no shit, fucking everybody knows that.
Well, Diana and Clark already know it, and so by extension Lois knows it because Clark knows it. And then the only one he really like initially reveals himself to is Aquaman. He doesn't say like he's Batman right away. He kind of has to verify that he's looking for him, but it's only once he finds out that they're super people that he reveals himself to them.
I think part of that too is from the character standpoint is trying to build trust. He's trying to get them to
I get that. It's just so weird for Batman to be telling people I'm Batman, like that's like, or I'm Bruce Wayne. He's just pulling up in the Batmobile. He does it multiple times.
He's wearing like the whole suit, but just not the cowl. Like, what's up?
So now if we delve a little bit into the jump in the shark, or really just like the part where you had to really just suspend disbelief was the whole Cyborg creation, and just the way they went about it, how basically like one and done, man, one try, hit a home run. I mean, granted he's a cyborg, and but he has the ability to basically control everything.
Well, they lay out his powers like in that opening sequence, and then he never actually lives up to that level.
I know
that was laid out. Too. So you're thinking, I'm watching this going, well, Jesus, this guy's unstoppable. Like with this power set, holy shit. And then, he turns out to be, okay.
He uses it for super advanced Google searches.
Trying to track something, and he's asking Bruce Wayne, how should you can do that,
and like, he is used his super brain to fix the plane, which they spend the entire film, by the way, like building
a Quinjet.
They fly it. It looks like a giant flying orca, and then it's gone. Like it's so fast. They're just. I was like,
well, here's the
what
thing.
a huge fucking MacGuffin, giant flying orca MacGuffin.
Didn't Batman crash that? Didn't he?
That's what I thought too. When he goes in through the dome,
and at the end, there it is again. It's like, what?
It's just fine.
Cyborg got to work again.
Cool like that.
He's a hard-working dude.
It crashed down in the street, but Cyborg got another software patch in there, and it's ready to roll.
He's like, you guys go stand on top of this ledge and look super heroic. I'll be back in 5.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was super cheesy.
What are they looking at? What? Because I was thinking, what are the actors physically in their head right now thinking? What are we looking at right now? They're standing here for 20 minutes, staring off. We're not on this jet yet. We're savoring the moment. How fucking badass we are! Look at
they were overseeing. They were overseeing the area that they just triumphed in. They were just looking down at their first success as a team.
Yeah.
Thanking God that Superman
came
back,
guys.
Huh?
Yeah.
Thanking God that Superman came back. Oh,
thank God.
One of the things I couldn't remember if it was in the first, the original or this one, was the whole Barry Allen interviewing at the dog washing place. That was all fresh. Okay.
That introduced Iris West.
That scene was dope.
Yes, it did.
That introduced Iris, and she wasn't in this Justice League.
She was not at all. I will say that I still felt the same thing that I felt from the first time watching the original, is that I think the Flash is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
I love Ezra Miller's Flash. He's fun. He's quirky. I mean, maybe in his own standalone movie, it'll be different when it's like leaning on him, but because he's in this and he's that sole bit of comic relief, and he's just a little more fun than everybody, I think that worked really well for him. I'm curious to see if it works when he does his own movie. But
that intro scene was strong. That for me was the first point in the film where I was like, I'm in. Like that was the first time. The CG is tragic in that scene. I mean, it's
pretty bad.
The hot dogs look like they were hand drawn. I tweeted that I thought that Cyborg in general looked like he'd been animated by Disney Studios by hand. Cyborg looks so terrible in this whole film, especially if they do a close up on his face. It's absolute trash.
This is the problem here. I mean,
it looked way worse in the other version. I'm sure.
No, but I'm just.
He looked about the same.
Yeah, he actually did.
Yeah, what you're talking about as far as the Flash and his standalone, movie. That's like, I think that it is happening, right?
Yeah, it's happening. They changed it though. It was going to tie in a little more heavily to the movie, and then I think they're moving away from that.
The problem is aside from it being a DCEU production, is that for some reason I think I don't know if we ever talked about it, but DC has a hard time telling a story or trying to convey what their story's about. It's like when Pete starts rambling about a point and loses it, and then just kind of stops talking and go back to what we're talking about.
Exactly.
And so and that's where you can point to any of the movies except for Man of Steel. Man of Steel was it's like the pinnacle of the DCEU, which, as good as it was, there's definitely things that could have been better about it.
Like what? It's perfect.
There was definitely not enough Henry Pecks in it.
That is true. That you're right. It wasn't perfect. Needed more shirtless Cavill.
The entire time. Yeah, the new Superman where it's
just shaved into his chest.
Is he always so perfectly manscaped? Because I commented on that, like specifically. I was like, oh wow. I was like, Jesus, they really like even dead, he pops out with perfect manscaping.
He was a little less like groomed in Man of Steel for sure. Like they just kind of let him have his natural furriness, but then in this one it's just
they start dating
perfect.
Lois,
like
I'm not dating a fucking bear. Here's the ring.
He's like, I'm gonna keep just enough to be manly, but no more.
Yeah, you might be Superman, but Jesus, I have my limits.
I 100% agree with you about DC not being able to tell a cohesive story. However,
they have books upon books of stories.
Yeah, right.
However, now that this
almost 100
exists, this Justice Snyder, or whatever you want to call it, Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and now this is actually a very good cohesive story. It works really well within those three movies.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
everything outside of that, still no, fuck those things. But these,
even like Wonder Woman as a character, like Wonder Woman as a character is completely not cohesive. Like what she can do in the first one. Yeah, because she's barely in them. She's only in two of them.
That's not the argument. She's cohesive in these three.
No, but what I'm saying is like in the DCEU in general, going back to what Opie said, is like her character is just inconsistent. Like wildly inconsistent.
Multiple directors, and Patty Jenkins lost her mind on the second movie, obviously, so we don't know what's going on there. But
we'll find out in the third one after she writes it.
It's just amazing that Marvel has had all of these characters bounce through different, and Iron Man will be in the Captain America movie, and
the difference is they had Feige the whole time.
But it's consistent. They keep a consistency with the character.
Well, here's the other thing too, and DC just doesn't get this either, is Marvel, for the most part, introduce each of their characters in their own seperate movie and then brought together, versus this is like, let's bring them together where you don't
and then do our spin-offs
or really, it's just
one thing that was really interesting to me is that people that had watched both, a lot of reviews were, the character development is so much better in this one, so the characters are so much more interesting, blah blah blah, which is true. Like Cyborg actually has a storyline. Steppenwolf has a storyline. Like all these characters have a storyline they didn't have in the first one. But my argument is, if you have to make a movie 4 hours long to give your characters the development they need, they should have had their own movies.
Part of that, I feel though, like because Snyder just made Man of Steel like in a bubble. And then obviously it did well enough that they were like, okay, let's make more of these. I feel like half of that is Snyder and half of that is the studio being like, we need to catch up. And it's not fair to him, unfortunately, that he has to do this. But at the same time, he is an avid DC Comics reader. Like if you actually listen to him in interviews, like he knows this shit. And so he took what he could and tried to jam them all into this third movie before they probably should have been all in a movie together. And seeing his actual vision, it works a lot better than the other original 2017 version did, but you can only do so much. Like when the studio's like, we need to catch up, you need to have more characters, we need to be the next Avengers. He's like, all right. And then, you get what you get,
I think what's interesting too is you can tell that he's a fan because while the movies aren't necessarily great, he doesn't do anything wrong with the characters. Like the characters themselves, especially for the things that he did versus what they did in the solo movies, they're all pretty true to the character, other than Man of Steel when he murders
Zod.
It's
reluctant, at least.
Yeah. I mean, by the flip side on that one, like what else was he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Right.
This is a different version of these characters, though.
Yeah.
It's like everyone wants them to just be the same Christopher Reeves Superman and maybe not Adam West, but not quite like a different Batman. Like they're looking for the versions of these characters that they already know.
But he was very, very, very open about the story he was telling when it started. It was Dark Knight. Like it was not the happy times of Superman and Batman. Like
for sure.
And that's fine. I do myself prefer the lighter version of Superman in general, like as a character. And I think that's why I'm enjoying Superman and Lois, because it is a little lighter as far as he goes.
Yeah.
But knowing what he was doing, I fully respect it. Like that's fine.
Yeah. He had like you can really see now with this third film that he did have a clear vision. It's not what everybody wants.
Yeah.
It's not the heroes that we all necessarily know from previous iterations or even the comics to some degree, but it's a new telling of familiar characters it's the same DNA, but it's just altered a little bit. And he knew what he wanted, and I got to give him props for that for sure.
Well, I know he was planning on doing 3 Justice League movies.
2 and 3, and he was actually gonna explore the whole nightmare concept that you got.
Did you hear what he was going to do with the third one?
There's a lot of things floating out.
I got an article on Screen Rant.
In the third one, Lois and Clark were going to have a kid.
Yeah,
and that's the new Batman.
He was going to become Batman because he wasn't going to have any powers.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, I watched a whole thing on it. Part of this film they did shoot in which Lois and Bruce hook up. And they even have a remnant in it. And I even tweeted about it. There's a scene in which she pulls open her side drawer and there's a pregnancy test in there. And the pregnancy test is hovered on. I mean, they are focusing on this pregnancy test and it's never touched on in the entire film. And it felt so weird. And I was like, what the fuck is with this pregnancy test? So I read, and apparently she gets pregnant and it's Bruce's, it is not Clark's. And she doesn't realize that. And that part plays into all of the future conflict with Superman and all of that stuff. Because Lois is supposed to die. And then when Lois
Batman
dies,
versus Superman, Flash shows up and it's like, Lois is the key. And he's like, oh, I should bang that chick.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's how that went. Yeah.
And then so eventually that's when Apocalypse comes down and it turns Dark Superman and kills all. And then that's what like 2 was supposed to be, that whole process happening and Superman killing all the Justice League. Like they were going to introduce Hawkman and a lot of the other side kind of super friends, and that's has just kind of gone away now. And that's what's sad about this one actually.
Jesus Christ, if that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah, my thing is,
I listened to the whole thing that they were going to do, and it was pretty ridiculous. It was featuring heavily this anti-life like formula that they tried to shoehorn into this, which made no fucking sense.
It's the Infinity Stones of the DC universe.
Yeah,
it makes sense if you've read the comics. That's one of those things that they didn't explain enough for the people that haven't read the comics.
Math.
That's the thing that's the thing that really separates. Well, there's many things, but that's one of the things that separates the MCU from the DCEU is that the MCU makes those movies accessible to people who have never read a single page of the comics. The DCEU does to a degree, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, a lot of mentions of things, a lot of just visual cues, a character name, etc. that they drop in there. It's Easter eggs for hardcore fans only.
I would say that's very true. I have to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I think
I get the answers. The comic book fans are like, "Oh, that's because of this," and
I think that's cool to a degree that he is catering to. Again, he's catering to an audience, like, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Like, it's just. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I really, really fucking enjoyed this movie. Like, it's probably my second favorite DCEU movie now, behind Man of Steel.
Oh no, I'm with you on that. I would say that too.
Yeah. But, I mean, not that there's a lot of fucking competition.
Oh my god!
But like, I've got it third behind Aquaman, but.
Get out of here with that shit.
I don't.
Have you seen Suicide Squad or the Harley Quinn movie yet?
And that was the last time Dave was on the show.
I will say your connection. The Aquaman scene in this film, the one behind me, where he's walking on the pier, and it's going over, and that song, and I burst into absolute laughter. It was the biggest, cheesiest, schlockiest piece of shit.
Yeah.
I think they could have made it longer.
That's
terrible. A little longer to really.
So that, if I remember correctly, that in the first movie was also kind of shoehorned together with him being Bruce Wayne in the bar. I know it's in there, but I thought that was one scene as opposed to two. It was two.
It's two separate scenes.
And the first still have that same song as like that whole scene.
No, it's totally different. It's faster. It goes quicker. Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering. The pace, the song, the whole thing was so gratuitous. I was laughing so hard.
The first 2 hours of this movie were bloated and very slow, and it was complete and utter setup. But the minute they switched to bringing Superman back to life, it just goes.
It's when the team gets together that it really takes off.
And from that point on, I actually, like Alex, really, really enjoyed it from there.
The other thing,
and I'm very disappointed that the other stuff's not going to happen.
Well, the other thing that Dave doesn't get that we do from watching it is that the entire last act was completely different.
Oh yeah,
like 100% different than the other one.
It is a different movie from like the middle of the movie on. Like those last two chapters, I think chapter 5 and 6. It's like night and fucking day. It's like
so when just one of the biggest ones, when Barry Allen is running around in a circle trying to build up a charge, and that whole thing where he saves the world in this one.
He literally stops the apocalypse. Yeah.
In the Joss Whedon version,
I don't even want to
he saves a family of 4 and a truck and has a race with Superman. Like it's so like you're like, okay, this is fucking stupid. And then it doesn't happen in this one, and you're like, oh my god, this is so much better.
Immediately when Steppenwolf went to Chernobyl or wherever the hell that was, that doesn't really ever specify.
They do say where it was.
It's somewhere outside of Moscow. It's a different,
I know, but I'm just going to say Chernobyl because
Chernobyl.
It's basically
it's
Chernobyl.
Recognizable. Yeah.
Like that as soon as they went there and then they found out like where he went and they were like, oh, it's abandoned because of nuclear fallout. I was like, no Russian family. Yay. Like I was just like so happy because that was so stupid. That was so stupid.
Yeah, that was dumb. But the one that was actually the one thing that did bum me out was like, I understand that he went like kind of back in time to save everybody, even though it was like a span of minutes that he went back.
Yeah.
They don't, in that particular movie, and with everything you've seen from Barry Allen, you don't know that he can do that. So like it was almost not explained.
They show it earlier in the film when he brings back Superman, he goes back in time about 5-6 seconds.
He does, because the picture of Jonathan Kent that falls in the water starts coming back
it
up
all
out of
comes
the
back
water.
up. He goes back.
It's
goes
just
back
for like a
about
smidge,
5-6 seconds.
Yeah,
I saw that and knew instantly that that's how the movie was going to end.
Well, also it's the resurrection of Superman part, because he makes that point when he talks about that charge. He says, I can build up enough of a charge, but things start to act weird as with time and space as I reach getting closer to the speed of light. And exactly, it's the photo drops. And I saw the same thing you
Jesus
did.
Christ, I only watched it once.
Yeah,
I really, like I said, I was
like, I have the script right here.
from that point on, it became a good movie.
Yeah,
I don't know that I will say I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching this film.
Yeah, there's definitely problems.
But I don't know that I'd watch it again. There are huge
like,
problems with
this. This is like a 5-star review for any DCEU.
Yeah.
This is, and it's always the same. It's like, it was good, as entertaining. Yeah, it's almost like you're ashamed to like it. It's like, not that, it's just it's I don't know.
We follow a similar trajectory with a lot of these movies. I understand what you're saying.
It's a very, it can't be any other movie for the most part. Like, again, I always compare it to a Marvel movie that we like. We can just like, it was so good because of so many things. Like, this was good. It has some cool stuff, but there's always some really just ridiculous, like, come on, man, you just had a win. You bring this chick out here to sing for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like some of the biggest pitfalls of this movie, unfortunately, were, for lack of a better term, the Snyderisms. Mm-hmm. Some of the licensed music that he uses in his film is atrocious.
Yes,
the original score for the most part was pretty good. But I think just like the licensed music, he always picks the weirdest songs for the weirdest moments. It happened in Watchmen. It happens in this now. Like, a lot of his movies have that sort of weird. I've never really liked his taste when it comes to licensed music. The original score is fine, but not as strong as something like Man of Steel or something like that.
Yeah, well, Man of Steel is Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
I was impressed with Watchmen with his music, if I'm being honest. I thought the music in Watchmen was pretty amazing.
The music is good, and some of it that's period appropriate is really good, but there is just some of that weird, like, hallelujah during the sex scene. It's so awkward still. Like, every time I see that movie, I'm like, why is this song playing? Like, and then he uses it in like all of his films. So every time I see a movie with that, because the credits of this movie uses that song again. And I was like, oh no, the sex scene from Watchmen.
I thought that was, I was, the credits started, so I was watching for a minute just to see if maybe there's some like little scene thing. So I paused it and then started fast forwarding
in case there was anything else he missed.
I fast forwarded to the end and then hit play just in case it's right at the very end.
Yeah.
But it's all hallelujah. I'm like, what the?
Speaking of post-credit scenes, the entire epilogue was entirely useless. I know it
wouldn't have been if he was able to continue with what he was.
Exactly. I know that it's kind of in there just to show kind of where he was going, but like, without an explanation of all of that, it makes no sense.
Yeah. Okay. And here's with that scene though, the nightmare sequence, I'll say it, standard Pete opinion. I'm sorry. I'm interested to see what would have happened.
Words, buddy. Words.
No, he told us right from the beginning, standard Pete opinion. And we're not getting anything out. Okay. So we're going to. I could say, it's just.
If you ever wanted to hear a stroke.
Yeah, let me guess. You really like the Joker. You like what Jared Leto did. You love that whole scene.
I didn't love it, but it actually made me, versus the little bit that we got to see in Suicide Squad. It made me interested to see what would have happened in the Batman movie with Joker that way. I would have liked to have seen what he could have done with the character.
Grateful that I never had to.
Yeah,
I think that
Jared Leto, for me, I tweeted like, and he's failed as a Joker for the second time. Like,
it wasn't great. It wasn't great.
It's interesting because I liked the dialogue between the two. Like, I liked what they were saying. I just didn't necessarily love the way it was said.
I like how Batman said, "I'll fucking kill you."
Yes.
I was like, okay,
yeah,
all right, Batman.
Yeah.
I loved how many F-bombs there were in this movie too. That was
there were quite a
fun.
few.
Like,
yeah, I mean, it earned its rated R.
Yeah,
it earned its rating for sure.
Well, yeah, I read something about that too, where he was like, "Cool, so we're doing this for HBO, and I don't have to worry about MPAA ratings and all that."
Yeah.
He's like, "Fuck that."
I mean, it's funny because like even in Batman versus Superman, he had the director's cut of it, which was rated R, and there wasn't really a lot more language. There was just a lot more violence, but you could tell that it was like post-production violence. Like he added blood splatters and stuff after the fact, like it wasn't in the original film. And it's the same thing here, like in a lot of cases.
With
like,
Wonder Woman, when she fought those dudes in the bank, like the cuts away and it comes back and there's like blood splatter on the wall. And
it showed her like actually slamming these dudes into surfaces, where in the other one, it shows her like throw them and then it cuts to like her turning around and going for the next guy. This one let each scene like linger a little bit longer. So you actually saw what happened to the dudes, and I was just like, man, she's fucking brutal. And I kind of like that. I kind of like this version of Wonder Woman better, if I'm being totally honest, than like the.
For sure,
I mean,
better than 84.
It fits the universe. It fits the universe.
It fits that universe. It doesn't fit her movies, but
it doesn't fit 84. That's for damn sure.
It doesn't fit 84. No. It fits the first one.
First one to a degree. To a degree, yeah. Because she fucks up some Nazis in that first one. Let's be real.
In 84, doesn't she throw like a dude into a fucking hula hoop or some shit? Like,
yeah. And then
there's just some
don't talk about that movie. Don't talk about that movie. I don't want to fucking.
Is that the one with Kristen Wiig?
Yeah.
When she was playing that cheetah chick.
No, don't.
Or that Chitara.
No, don't.
That one was a big disappointment.
No,
I will say Warner Brothers made the smart move with this. I'm sure they have made their money back in everything. I mean, this is the
I was reading the numbers. They lost money on the original. The first.
They lost, and then this crashed the app the first night it was out.
Yep.
So many people wanted to watch. And one thing I will say, which is really, really nice, is that a lot of people, like online, on YouTube, you see a lot of positivity surrounding this. Not even like, even if they're like, it wasn't like my favorite, but I appreciate that the director got a chance to really show people what he wanted to show them in the first place. Because what happened to him was tragic. The reason he left this film.
That's what broke me in this movie was when the credits rolled and the very first fucking it says was for Autumn.
Yeah.
Oh, that hit me harder than
I don't understand. Like what happened?
Do you not know what happened? His daughter committed suicide during the creation of Justice League.
That's why he left. That's why he left.
Zack Snyder's daughter.
Zack Snyder's daughter.
How old was she?
20.
She was young. Yeah, she wasn't that old. It was pretty tragic, and that's why he left. And a lot of the things he does now, including this film, he partners with a lot of like anti-suicide foundations and stuff like that, and a lot of proceeds go towards things like that.
Is that why this one looks so uplifting?
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. But
Faith, Alfred, faith.
No, man, it's so much better. Like, I can look at like it almost makes it possible to look at the first three films now, Man of Steel, BVS, and this, and just say like, here's a trilogy of DC films. That's it. And not even remember that there's anything else.
Wasn't there Shazam? No. Stay on track. Just stay on track.
I just swore Aquaman got his own movie. No, he definitely didn't. He never did.
Batman versus Superman is still tragic.
It is.
Well, the extended cut is much better.
The extended cut?
The actual version.
I don't even remember. I got to be honest. I didn't remember why Superman was dead at the beginning of this. I assume he dies at the end of Batman versus Superman. But that movie,
I think it's because their moms both have the same name.
That I wiped everything from that movie out of my brain except for the Martha scene, which has like embedded itself in there and refuses to ever leave.
Why did you say that name?
That also, because that was probably one of the most memed fucking things at that time when that came out.
Here's the thing: I didn't see that movie for years until after it came out. So I didn't get any of it, and so I watched it and saw it fresh and was like, "What the fuck."
You didn't see the extended version because that's my impression after I'd already seen the extended version, and when I rewatched it years later, knowing that it wasn't great, but I was like, I'll just give it another watch. Nothing else to watch. I didn't realize there was such a huge difference because I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, I remember not liking this, but this is offensive.
Yeah. See, that's I've only watched the extended version, and because of everything everyone has said, I refuse to go back and watch the other one.
Don't ever do it. There's no
I feel like I watched reason. The extended version. Maybe I didn't, but you know.
Well, you know what they did too. I think watching both of these movies,
it's not that much better.
Yeah,
but it definitely has some points.
But I think watching both of these movies, I think it's a note to people that hire Zack Snyder is fucking let him just do his thing. If you're gonna hire him, let him do his thing, or it's gonna be a shit show. Like if you try and pare down what he's doing, he at least you can say he has a clear vision to what he's doing. Mm-hmm. It's not perfect necessarily for everybody. It's not for everybody or whatever, but you got to let him do his thing or it's not going to work.
What else is in his resume of movies?
300, Watchmen, Sucker Punch.
Which was awesome and gets fucking shit on.
Sucker Punch?
Yeah.
I love Sucker Punch.
It gets shit on so much. And that movie is
so cool. And I was so excited about it. But like Pete said, it gets shit on. Everyone hates it. So I've never actually
visually, it's a phenomenal
like
fucking
300
movie.
I never saw because I'm not, when it comes to movies, like, yeah, I guess visually is nice, but I definitely want more. I'm more into substance and story than I am visual because I think visual it can be
300. It's the graphic novel. Like it's like Zack Snyder did the graphic novel and he does a great job of it.
I would argue that 300 is probably the most substantive as far as story is concerned because it's actually based off of things that actually happened.
Yeah.
It's obviously like a super fantasized, blown out version of that, but it's based on historical events. Like there's plot movement and character development and other things like that. So I think 300 is probably one of his strongest out of his like repertoire. If I had to pick,
that's definitely the one thing I would say about Snyder. And it's funny, talking about Sorkin earlier, Snyder's stuff has a signature to it. So if he did something and his name wasn't on it anywhere, if it just came out, you'd see it and you'd be like, that's probably Zack Snyder. Mm-hmm. It's like Opie watching a Michael Bay film. You see it and you
tell from the trailer.
Know.
Yeah,
there's these things.
J.J. Abrams and his lens flare.
I haven't seen a lot of Zack Snyder, but what I have seen is starting to give me a bit of a Michael Bay feel as far as like, I'm not all that excited to see it.
It's true. I'm actually more, I lean more that way than I do not. I don't love a lot of the things that Snyder does. His stuff is in a lot of cases more visual than I want it to be.
It's very divisive for sure.
Yeah. I don't need as much slow motion as he uses.
There was a lot of slow motion in this.
A lot.
I was like, we could maybe speed this up a bit. The movie would probably be about 3:45 if we took out some of the slow mo.
Yeah,
and then that girl singing, and then
girl singing. Yeah, like, again, there's Snyderisms that are just like, dude, come on, we know who you are, we know your stamps. Like, you don't need to.
And maybe this is just a superhero movie in general. Something maybe maybe they do in Marvel that I don't completely notice. Does the Flash have like some sort of invulnerability that they don't talk about? Because he gets smashed into some like fucking stone steps.
No, but he does heal
Superman
fast.
On this
he heals incredibly fast because everything about his body is faster. So like at the end when he gets blasted in the side and he's like heal, he's like trying to like get himself to go as fast as possible so that he can help. Mm-hmm. So he does have, like they mentioned, fast metabolism. He heals quickly.
And his suit is essentially armor. Like it's the same shit that is on the space shuttle. So I mean, he can take a bit of a beating.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Now that's something that the DC, besides Superman, obviously because he's Superman and he actually can take like a missile to the face and be fine. They never quite, in any of the movies, including these three, give you like a clear idea of how much abuse some of these characters can take and be okay. Like that's one thing. That was one of my biggest things with Aquaman. Is this fool takes like a grenade launcher to the chest? He falls out of a plane. Yeah. I'm like, you're a water man. How are you doing this? Like this doesn't track with what's possible for you. But
your biggest power is that you speak to fish, bro.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, but that's their version, and that's fine. Like he has capabilities outside of the
if
the
you
comic
guys
books,
paid attention to the Aquaman film, you would know that he can survive the crushing depths of the ocean. That is why he has the toughness that he has.
That's fine. A grenade still blew up on his chest.
I'm just saying it's just one of those interesting things to me. I get that it's armor and everything else, but I didn't know that about the Flash, because like there's that scene where both he and Cyborg are waking up, and you're looking at it, and it's like you'd think in a world that they're trying to make dark and kind of reality based as much as it can be.
Yeah, as much as it can be.
I feel like Superman would have, like, when he like Hulk Loki'd him into the fucking stairs, like he would have been destroyed if he made like that much of it. He broke the stone steps that way.
If that were working, Batman would never stand a chance against it.
And
right. It's one of those things as well where if you really think about where Superman is in his career, he's still very new. He doesn't quite like, and you see it, and this is one of the things I really appreciated about Batman versus Superman. And I know a lot of people don't like that film, and that's fine. There's definitely some problems, but when they go toe to toe, when Bruce hits him with the kryptonite dart or the kryptonite grenade, he outclasses Superman at every step because he's a superior fighter.
Yeah,
Superman doesn't really know how to throw down like Batman does,
because he doesn't have to.
Yeah, so when they're on par strength wise, Batman decimates him. Like he doesn't even stand a chance. And I really like that. And that just is sort of an extension of this. Is like Superman, he's not really great at being Superman yet. He's still a young Superman in this sense of the word.
Raw talent and no skill.
Yeah. It's kind of like a baby rattlesnake where like he's gonna swing at you as hard as he can, but he's probably gonna miss because he doesn't really have control. If he hits you, he's gonna fuck you up. But like he's really kind of just not, he hasn't been trained essentially by anyone. So it's just all raw strength. And so I kind of like that he's not really great at anything. For the most part, when he gets resurrected, they're kind of just trying to do stuff to him, and he's just flailing, and he's like throwing them everywhere and hitting. He hits Wonder Woman, which is fine because she's like the only one who could actually take a hit from him. But like even that, like they're kind of toe to toe. Like she headbutts him, and then he headbutts her, and
he headbutts the shit out of her.
He headbutts her into the earth. He's just like, bah. And then she's like, "Oh fuck."
Mondays, that's the other thing about Wonder Woman in this movie. I don't understand why she fights anybody. She just take 2 steps back and just bam. Just bam every time. Why fight? Why throw a punch?
She tries. She tries to charge up. He like flings at her and grabs her wrists before. Because she tries to do that too. I'm like,
I just mean with everybody else. Like every time she shows up, she fights for a minute and then she's like, "Oh yeah."
The Black Panther's armor. She has to build up that kinetic resistance.
There you go. Well, her fight scenes in this were so much better though. So I'm happy when because we didn't get any of this in the original. Like one thing that I really like about this is that every superhero in this version is way more competent than they are in the Justice League. Like in Justice League, Flash is so weak, and like he even they put in an extra line of like, I've never really fought anybody. I usually just push people and run away. Like that wasn't here. He's way more competent with his abilities. Same with Cyborg. Like he's still learning, but he's way better than he was. And it goes for like even Wonder Woman, who is competent, but you actually get to see her do shit in this movie. Like when she busts through the wall and it's her and Steppenwolf, and he's like looking at his axe, like, should I go for it? And she's like looking at him like, touch it. I fucking dare you. Like touch your axe. And then they just go toe to toe for like a few minutes. I was like, this is dope. Like, this is cool. Like, why, I don't like, why did you cut this? Like, it's so cool.
Scene, I agree with you. The bank scene was not great, but the rest of her fights were really cool.
What's tough about that is the bank scene is actually one of the highlights of the original version.
Except for the dialogue, all the shitty dialogue they cut out. I'm so happy they got rid of all the Joss dialogue. It was all so bad. Like, imagine this dark ass movie / trilogy of movies with just random Avengers 1 lines thrown in at random spots, which make no sense.
And they're not funny.
They're not funny because they make no sense. Like they took, and they even gave the Flash extra lines. And then he had all the funny lines in this one. I was like, these were the funniest ones anyway.
Yeah.
Like all the lines in this one were funnier than any of the John. I'm like, oh man,
it wasn't even really the lines that were funny. It was all his delivery.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
I mean, it was just how he interacted with a situation. His whole scene with the dog walking interview scene.
Yeah.
That was fucking great.
I mean, like if you're going to make a comparison, he's like Spider-Man in the MCU. Like he's just quirky and fun and like young and, just,
and it's just
a kid.
The irony of the scene is that he's late. he's the fastest man on Earth, and he's late for something.
Yeah,
it's just like right away they're just like, okay, I see who this is. But then even still, like the emotional stuff, like when he's in the jail talking to his dad, they added stuff to that scene. Like that scene is in it, but they had more dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite line that he has in this that he didn't have in the Justice one, it's super quick, but like it really gives you context into who Barry actually is in this universe. Like, yeah, he's like fun loving and he tells a lot of jokes, but it's totally a mask. Like he's miserable. Like you can tell his life has not been easy. Like his dad's in jail for murdering his mom, which
dead.
But he didn't actually murder his mom, and he knows that. And you can tell, like in that one scene when they're digging up Superman, when they're just kind of talking back and forth, him and Cyborg, and then he just stops for a second. He goes, "He was my hero," and then he stays there for a second, and then kind of goes back to like being funny again. I was like, "Damn, dude! Like, there's way more to him than there was in the original. Like, so much more."
That was one of those moments in the movie where I was like, how did they get Superman's body for one?
It was buried in Smallville. They show that in BVS.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how they would have gotten it, you know, because that's basically saying that he's Clark Kent, which no one would have known at the time. And then someone like
Bruce
that
knew, right?
So
Bruce knew. And obviously Martha.
So if that's Superman, if anyone knows that that's Superman in that Clark Kent grave,
no one does.
They
buried a separate. They had an empty.
There's a Superman funeral.
There's a Superman they buried him somewhere else.
And they think there's a body in that.
Yeah. That's how they talk about it at the end of BVS. Like there's like it's like a shot back and forth scene of just Martha, Lois, and a few people from Smallville who happen to know going just to that little plot, and then it cuts over to like millions of people at this huge parade. And someone even mentioned something like, I think it's Batman. He says something like they're mourning an empty grave or something like that. And they don't even know it. They don't know what he sacrificed.
That's the one thing that didn't track from Batman BVS to this one, is that I think when they show his grave at the end of BVS, don't the rocks start moving like he's not really
they did. Dead? They didn't do anything with that, which I was so upset about, because that was like, oh, he's resurrecting. This is the resurrection. But it was just his latent energy, I guess. They never did anything with that, which was so disappointing.
So how did they resurrect him in the Justice version?
It was similar. They used a mother box.
Basically the same way.
But the main difference is that at that point in the movie, and kind of through the whole movie in the Justice version, we didn't know what the mother boxes were or what they could do.
Right.
In this one, they explained it way better and way stronger.
All he ever does is call it a change engine, and that's all that you get out of it.
But they talked about, like, I love that explanation about them saying, like, you know, if a house burns down, the house isn't gone. The atoms have changed to smoke, and so this can change the smoke back into the house. Like that whole, I was like, perfect. Like that's all you need, like, for context. Mm-hmm. And again, they cut that out of the first movie, and it was like, what do these things do? Like, we don't know.
They do stuff and things.
They did cool stuff that they were like, it's a technology so advanced it looks like magic. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah,
they did feel very much like the DC universe's Infinity Stones.
That was the other thing too. That was
the equation is very much the Infinity Stones, the anti-life equation.
Yeah. But in this, it felt like, I mean, especially considering they used one of the boxes to make Cyborg, right?
Yeah,
it felt very, you know, kind of, we're creating more superheroes out of Infinity Stones.
Yeah, for sure. It's their
that
version.
Has existed in the DC comics forever. I mean, that's actually how Cyborg was made. But the one thing that was cool too is that whole fight scene that in the original was just with Steppenwolf, but that actually uses Apocalypse in
Darkseid
in this one. Darkseid in this one.
Yes.
But you got a Green Lantern. You got Zeus and Ares.
The Green Lantern was in the Justice.
Kilowatt is dead too.
Yeah, there was a Lantern, but he was like relegated to the background. You saw him for like 1 second in the Justice cut.
Did you? I'd have to watch that again. I don't
the only thing I would have liked, and obviously it's because they didn't have that much CGI money left for throwing that in. Instead of just green like blasts from the lantern, it would have been fun to actually see like a lantern shape that he makes, you know, like I just think it doesn't sphere fit. Or a giant hammer or something.
I don't think it
like
fits for
kind of
the Snyder.
Yeah,
but this is supposed to be one of the spin-offs from this, or one of the ones that was supposed to come off this one was a Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah,
like that was one of the planned
you also have to remember that
off.
These are more like the ancient lanterns. They didn't manifest their will the same way as they do these days, where they actually turn it into shit. They're just using their will as like pure energy and like defensive shit and whatever else.
Yeah, and it's a risk too, because if you look at what they did with the Ryan Reynolds one, it was just so over the top with all that shit. all the stuff that plays in a comic book, in that case, doesn't play in a movie. It just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of times you're right, for sure.
I still haven't seen that one either.
Don't.
I did watch it like a long time ago, and I was like, "What?"
I watched it. Yeah,
it was very disappointing.
It's pretty much the best movie ever made,
for sure. About on par with Aquaman, the other best movie ever made.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I really like this movie. I actually debated watching it again before we recorded today, but I was just like, "That's another 4 hours." I don't know.
That's a long time, man.
I probably will watch it again.
I think I actually
probably fast forward through a bunch of shit.
That I
like the Russian singing.
Amber Heard came on. Fast forward, like
she had a British accent in this. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that was weird. I was like, "What?"
I think that was his original plan, and then they cut that out too.
She's underwater. Of course, she has a British accent.
Of course. Yeah. Well, it wasn't very good. I'm kind of glad they cut it out.
Her hair looked natural.
Yeah, her hair actually looked like hair instead of like Aquaman, where it looked like a Ariel wig from Spirit Halloween.
Yeah. I will say I did not agree with his 4x3 decision. That was a ridiculous decision.
It was hard to watch for like the first chapter, and then I just kind of got used to it.
Yeah, I got used to it real quick, but it was just weird. I know there's articles out there about why he did it.
I mean,
I haven't read them yet.
You see more of the movie.
Specifically IMAX.
Yeah, he shot it specifically for IMAX for the large format projectors, and that's how those actually look best. There was I saw like a comparison of the way it would have looked letterbox and what it cuts out and what you see. In that case, you actually do see
more.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But I totally know what you mean. Like when it started, I was like, "Is this just for the intro, or is this the whole thing, or what's going on here?" Like.
Well, there's also, like they did with Logan, apparently there is also a black and white version of this that's out there. And I'm like, I don't need that.
I don't think it's out yet. I think he's going to release it, but he's talked about it. Yeah.
Well, black and white we don't need that. This movie?
Yeah. Like what they did with Mad Max or Logan or other things.
Logan was kind of cool. There was something about that I saw that, I watched that. It was kind of neat. I don't think this needs a black and white version.
I didn't know that.
Well, like this poster that's behind me, or the one that's behind Kevin, or even behind, it's all black and white because he had that plan from the start to release a black and white version. But I don't know, man.
It's not that far off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, is like is comparing this one to the last one and looking at the last act, how like orange it was in the first one. Like everything was that like orange haze and just awful. Yeah. So the last act definitely looked better in that regard too.
This is the tone and the visual style he developed for these movies, and it's just what we're gonna like. Man of Steel was the same, Batman vs Superman was the same, like the desaturation, the high contrast, like the really deep blacks, like that's just kind of his style. Even in 300 and Sucker Punch to a degree, and even Watchmen to a degree, it has that sort of visual filter, and it's just what you get, like with his movies. And at this point, I'm like, okay, like that's just what he does, and that's fine.
One of the things that why I would also be interested to watch it again at home is just the sharpness of it. When I don't usually watch things in like 4K and stuff like that, where it's really sharp, where it almost looks like it was taken with a video camera kind of look, where that's how I saw this whole movie. And no matter how I changed the contrast on the TV I was watching, it never put it in a more of a theatrical type of look. And so I'm curious to try that, because I didn't watch it at home. I watched it here on a TV,
right?
See if it looks any different when I watch it on.
I actually did that because my TV is usually set on the gaming setting, so it's not as high contrast and stuff as it is for this. And I actually set it to the calibrated, like high quality setting to watch this, just because it felt like it needed it. And it definitely it made a real difference.
Yeah, man. I'm happy this exists, and I'm happy that people are happy that it exists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we won't ever see anything from it again. I don't think, no matter how much praise this movie gets, I think this version of the DC universe is gone. Like, I don't think it's ever coming back, unfortunately. They've just gone too far off the rails, and they're already rebooting franchises, and it's sad, but it's almost better this way, where we have these 3 films that are, I would say, great in Man of Steel case, pretty good in the extended version of Batman vs Superman, and then I think this one is just like a good movie, the Zack Snyder version. And I'm like, just those 3, I'm like, cool, I'm fine with that. Like, just let it end, and before it goes too crazy like some of these other DCE movies have. Like, it's okay that it's done. I'm happy that we all got to see this. It's crazy that it really existed, because back in the day, in like 2018, when people started yelling about this, the Snyder cut was
it just sounded like
like it doesn't exist. Like, this is the movie. Like, people are just blaming Joss. It's Snyder's vision, and it's like, nah, man, it was like a whole different movie.
He definitely had a different thing going.
Did you ever see the Richard Donner edition of Superman 2? The Richard Donner cut?
I want to say that I have.
It was bad.
It was been forever, but I feel like I have seen that.
I don't know if it's only because I was so used to the second one, like it was, or what, but I just, or that he didn't have as much footage to really, make his vision complete.
Yeah.
It just seemed really bad.
And the second one of the original Supermans, the Chris Reeves, that's the one where he gives up his power.
That's what
was not right, but he gives up his power at one point and then goes and gets it back in the Fortress of Solitude. Yeah. Because he wanted to be closer to Lois or something. It was the whole crystal, and he Marlon Brando is his dad's flip. Okay, yeah.
You can stop describing it.
Yes. That's it. Yes.
Are we going down this path now? Okay, now we're talking about the first Supermans.
Oh man.
Well, we made it, folks. In record time, I might add.
Yeah.
We managed to steer clear of some of our normal outposts of.
So Wonder Woman 84.
No, well, no, real quick.
Speaking of that, so I actually have a list of the next 7 movies that are coming out in the DC universe.
Oh, are they all called Who Gives a Shit?
Yeah. So
the Batman
August,
is
August 6th. Suicide Squad. We actually get Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the James Gunn version.
Yep. And then we don't get anything else until March of next year when it's the Batman.
The Batman.
Well, I'll be interested to see that, only because it looked cool so far. But
it does look
just
good.
Like it's like another fucking Batman.
I've said it for a while, but I think DC needs to take like 5 years off of movies. Get somebody in there that is their Feige. They don't have to be that good, but just somebody that can create a plan. And somebody that's in charge of it. They don't have to make a single movie, but they just have to have the plan and say, if we do this, the next thing is here.
That was
and plot that out for every character, because they don't have that at all.
As long as I keep Cavill as Superman, I'm down.
they do it in like 20 years, and he's like 60 years old.
As long as he's still Superman, I don't care.
The thing is, that was Snyder for a while. He was supposed to be the visionary for the DCEU, and then
that was the plan. But you can tell by looking at it just it didn't work.
He's been an executive producer on a lot of the films as well. Like on Wonder Woman, I'm pretty sure he was an executive producer, the first one. But with what happened to him, he dropped off a lot of the projects, and that's when it started getting all wacky. And then they're like, make it more like a Marvel film. Like, if he was there and his say so was what they had to do, a lot of that stuff would have.
I don't know who thought Aquaman looked like a Marvel film. That person should be fired.
Look like a PS2 cutscene.
We're still getting the Flash, November 2022.
Yeah, well, that could
supposed to be. You know that
it's gonna have Michael Keaton.
You know what Marvel should do?
That's the whole.
We talked about this before. Is they should make a Submariner film just to piss them off.
But there's already rumors that
Submariner out of nowhere.
No, Namor's supposed to show up in something.
Black Panther was the rumor.
Yeah. But now we'll see, because Chadwick, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's in the Flash movie. They're supposed to introduce Supergirl. They're supposed to unite the Keaton and Affleck Batman in a multiverse story. It's going to follow like the Flashpoint.
They cast a Hispanic girl as Supergirl.
They'll fuck it up.
Yeah, Supergirl is not blonde haired and blue-eyed.
Solid, yeah.
Well, we don't know about her hair color yet, technically.
True.
They might dye it.
True. I don't think they will, though. I think they're going to go for something different.
Never really made sense that she was blonde in the first place, because Superman has jet black hair.
Supergirl.
And they're family members. So
they're cousins.
Well, they're cousins.
I know, but
you're talking about the movie from 1984.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the comic book versions.
Because if you want to talk about that movie, I can recite that.
And we're all out of time, everybody. So
Peter O'Toole is in that movie of all people. Faye Dunaway, and Peter O'Toole are in that movie willingly.
It's like when I saw Ian McKellen in Cats. I was like, Gandalf, what are you doing?
Oh no. Don't start segueing into other genre.
I won't.
But
I'll be good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. DC is just gonna fuck it up. It's just gonna fuck it up.
December 16th of 2022, we're getting Aquaman 2.
Why though?
And they're bringing Black Manta as the bad guy.
Aquaman 2, the redemption.
Right.
Aquaman 2, the Aquaman.
Yeah, and then Black Adam. Yeah, that's.
Well, no, before Black Adam, we've got Shazam Fury of the Gods.
Cool name, bro.
Second
pass.
Yeah.
See, that's
you know what though? Out of all those, Flash and Shazam are the two and Batman. But like
Batman's like its own thing.
Yeah. It's a standalone trilogy. They were supposed to, pinning off everything in. No, it is because this.
I know
they already have a standalone trilogy of Batman.
We have two of them.
They have a few.
Batfleck was supposed to be Batman Bruce Wayne through all this new.
Yeah, they did have a script for him called The Batman that was supposed to be his movie. And everything.
And it was going to be almost a prequel to all this, and it was going to explore the death of.
See, and here's a funny idea. Maybe they should have fucking made that first.
Hey, there's an idea.
They actually said because of that end credit scene in Justice League is that that was actually Dick Grayson.
Yeah,
who he killed, who the Joker killed.
Oh, not Jason Todd?
No, it's Dick Grayson.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I figured he makes a Boy Wonder reference.
But I mean, in the comics, Jason Todd was Boy Wonder and he killed
all the Robins. It's kind of like their
Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing.
He was Nightwing at that point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, like as a kid, I remember when that came out, when you had to phone in to vote whether
if he died or
live or die. Yeah.
I wasn't old enough to know about that, but I've heard about it since. That sounds crazy.
That was wild. Yeah.
It's funny that they voted that he died.
Right? I was like, it just shows
that's the funny. It's just like, oh God.
Yeah, people are like, fuck that kid.
And that's the thing is like DC has always been darker than Marvel in almost every generation of it.
It depends on what you look at. Like Superman has not historically been all that dark.
Well, no, but
the DC universe in and of itself.
Introducing Batman and like from his introduction, his rogues gallery, like the things that happened in his books. And then of course, when the mergers happened, Justice Leagues and other things like that, when they all kind of came together, I know it all hasn't been dark, but it's historically been darker.
Yeah, I mean, Green Arrow's sidekick was a heroin addict.
Yeah, these movies track for me because
series about that.
Even though they're not like hopeful and bright, I'm like, DC's darker. Like, just look at Joker that came out a couple of years ago. Like, it's darker fiction, and that's fine. Like, we need that. We have Marvel. Like, we don't need Marvel again. Like, we need something different. And this, I don't know, man. It makes me really happy that this movie happened, and really sad that it fucking went so far off the rails afterward. Like, because it could have been cool.
Exactly. Like the original one left me wanting no more of any of this. I was like, I'm done. This one, I watched it and I was like, oh no, this would have actually been cool to see where they went now with the Cyborg movie and the Flash movie, like, you know, with these characters, where they were going, where
these were actual thoughts you had. You had these actual thoughts after you watched this one?
They were actually thoughts. He said them out loud to himself.
Yeah. Oh no, I think it would have been really good if we had done this. Who are you talking to? Huh? Who's that?
I will say that
I agree though. I totally agree.
I didn't. I don't give a shit about Cyborg.
I didn't need any more Cyborg. I got plenty.
And he was fine in the movie and everything. The character, I was just like, I don't.
Not very interesting.
I'm glad that we got more of him.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got more of him in this.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad. It's one
I
of those
don't think
things
I would want to see a movie though.
It's one of those things where Cyborg has never been a main character. He's always been like a Teen Titan or one of the members of the Justice League, but he's never been like one of the main echelon. And him being relegated to a side character is fine. I don't know that I need another movie for him because this would have fleshed him out just enough for me. Like it actually gave me like context into who he is and what he is. And that would have been more than enough, but we didn't even get that in the original. Like we got
that's
nothing.
Also kind of disappointing given how powerful he is.
Yeah, I mean, he is powerful, but it's funny, like the way that the dad phrases it when he's explaining how powerful he is. He's almost explaining it like if you were a supervillain, this is what you could do. You could fuck with the financial situation of the entire Earth. You could launch all the nukes, and it's almost like this juxtaposition of like this is how powerful you could be, but you're a good person, so you're not going to do all this crazy shit. Like it's almost like keeping him in check. Like you have a conscience, you're a good guy. You could do all this, but you won't because you want to do good for good people. Like, and I think that it's kind of cool, like that he has that ability, but he doesn't use it because he's like, yeah, a lot of this would be bad. Like if I got too powerful, it might go to my head and it might be bad for everybody. And that's, I mean, when it comes down to it, that's what all these heroes really are. Like Superman could destroy the world. He could fly into the core of the earth and punch it and the whole world would explode. And then he could just fly away, but he doesn't do that because he's Superman. Like it's a similar thing with Cyborg. He is super powerful, but he doesn't necessarily take advantage of it because realistically it would lead down a darker path. So I really liked his development in this movie a lot. Don't growl at me. I saw that.
I don't know. I agree in the fact that I'm glad this version exists. But it doesn't. I'm at the same time I'm glad it's over. It's just a what could have been. It's very disappointing. It's like, okay, it's time to scrap it. Let's start over.
Let's reboot again.
Again.
I'm glad Marvel's still going.
As they go into their 12th year of continuity at this point or something like that.
Yeah. So, 12 years of just fucking owning
across both TV and film.
Yeah, there's like overall Disney's just like laughing. Like, was a Snyder cut? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over my MCU money.
Yeah.
I will say this though, the buzz over Falcon and Winter Soldier has not been that great, and I would probably argue that it has been lessened by the Snyder cut.
For sure.
Been drowned out.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah. Like, give it a week. Give it.
I understand.
I think that it's like
Marvel will be on top again.
Snyder who?
Yeah, after next week, nobody's going to give a shit anymore because everybody who's going to watch this is going to watch it. I know a lot of people who are interested in it until they saw that it was fucking 4 hours long.
They probably went as far as to go, okay, this is going to air on this date. Tell you what, don't put too much into this episode. Who gives a no one's really watching. That's the weekend of the Snyder cut. Go and just write, real fluff. Second episode, really put it all into that one.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen too. But you're totally right, David. Like this week, I've seen almost nothing about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like a few things here and there, like those really diehard DC haters who are just like, stop talking about Snyder Cut. Let's talk about Winter Soldier and Falcon. And it's just like, you can talk about both. Like they can both.
Who's going to enter a conversation when it started like that? Stop talking about that. Let's talk about this.
I've literally, I'm not even joking. Someone I know on Facebook posted that. And I was like, bro, you need to calm the fuck down. Like,
oh my God. Hey guys, stop talking about that. Let's talk about this. Speaking of which, I saw that Beavis and Butthead is coming back.
Again?
Is it really?
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's gonna, I guess it's like two I think it's 2 seasons and a movie are supposed to happen, and they're supposed to go on Comedy Central first and then on to Peacock or Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Paramount Plus.
Yeah, Paramount Plus.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be coming next year, I think, or something like that. So who knows?
It's exciting.
All right. Well, we did it. We got through.
We finally talked about the Snyder Cut, you guys.
At DC. No, we never talked about the Snyder Cut trailer.
Next week then.
Quickly go over that.
Yeah.
Which one at this point?
Yeah.
So I'll rewatch this again when I'm home to see if it looks better just visually.
Some of the CG is a little rough.
I gathered,
but it's older.
Too.
Just fast forward to like the first hour 40.
No, I never understand how characters like Steppenwolf comes, just starts plowing through people, but then just can't. He's like, he just all of a sudden he can't just beat the hell out of people. It's like,
well, Superman's the only one who really fucked him up.
Superman comes by and just like,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was
like when he zapped in front of him and he hit his axe on his shoulder and he just looked at it, he's like, not impressed.
Yeah.
And then he used the ice breath, which is just like, we haven't really got to see that yet.
That was the other thing that drove me crazy too, was the very beginning, when they are essentially implying that Superman's death triggers the mother box, right? But they fucking follow his yell for like 15 minutes. Yeah, they're like, watch it travel across.
It was a bit much.
It
was a bit.
I was like, come on.
They keep doing it. Like they're showing, it's like hitting little craters on the moon.
Yeah,
it's hitting Mars.
I think
like,
Pete's right. I think
every
the first
planet.
hour 40 of this movie is unnecessary. Like there's
I don't think so. I think that even for the Snyder piece was just poorly edited. There was stuff that could have been shortened, could have been removed, and could have been done, and they could have kept that same heart of the beginning of the movie, which is fine.
Well, they would have cut 40 minutes out of the beginning of the movie that way.
Well, you also you have to take into effect that 60% of the movie is in slow motion.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
The thing is, they cut it too much in the Joss version.
Yeah.
And they didn't cut it quite enough in this version.
Yeah, no, I don't think it needs to be. I mean, I think this movie would probably work really well right around 3 hours.
Like 3:15-ish.
I'd be curious to see what Zack Snyder cut.
Not much.
I don't think he cut anything. I think he added.
He actually did all the Martian Manhunter scenes. He planned on doing those originally. He had storyboards for them, but they never filmed them. So the Martian Manhunter scenes were new.
Oh, wait a second.
That was so fucking disappointing. That was the one thing to me that was a crazy disappointing, is that you're going to have this one little cameo and then we see him again at the end. And it was like, dude, that would have been awesome to have him somewhere in the movie.
Are we supposed to know who that person is?
I don't have any idea who it is. Like, it was
John Jones, Martian Manhunter.
He's a deep cut for if you're a comic fan, just like I was saying before. Like,
he's a Justice League member.
He's a key Justice League member. Especially nowadays.
He's kind of like, he's a Martian, obviously.
If you couldn't tell,
right? But he's like expelled from Mars.
Hey, what's going on here?
hey, Batman. Yeah, I know who you are.
But I believe he comes to Earth because he's kicked off of Mars.
Kicked off of Mars.
Yeah.
Well, there's different versions of his origin story. And some he's exiled, and other ones he comes to Earth and doesn't know who he is yet. I mean, just like any DC property, there's 5,000
a lot of them. He's the only survivor of the Martian Wars. And
Earth is just a magnet for Martians.
Pretty much.
It's like you haven't been to Earth? Oh, dude, you got to go to Earth. Earth is where it's at.
They're all on budget.
The Lois Lane Martha scene was an exceptionally strong scene. I liked it a lot.
The dialogue,
For me, it was really cheapened by when she stepped out and turned into Martian Manhunter. I thought that it kind of, ruined the scene for me.
It was cool as a deep cut for comic book fans, but I also think the emotional payoff was lessened because it wasn't actually
Martha.
And it also is kind of funny because I was listening to some people talk about this movie. You can actually, like, if you really pay attention, you can tell it's not really Martha. Her accent is like way thicker. Like she's almost like going with it a little too hard, like her little country drawl and everything like that. And some of the things that she says, like when she's talking about Perry White, she says Mr. Perry instead of just Perry or Mr. White or something like that. Like she's trying too hard to be like a country girl or something like that. And it's just little subtle things like that. I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. Like, again, it's one of those things, like if you pay attention and if you know the comics, like,
think that's true, that's actually there, or that just, you know, because like Amber Heard's accents all over the place.
They could be reaching for sure. Who knows? It's like, you know, I agree with you, but it was still cool to see him and know that he's part of the universe.
I think you're right, because there's little shit throughout this movie, and in the end when they go to the, you know, like the Batman at the end when they're showing him building something, that vehicle that he's building,
the tank,
that's from Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know, like straight, and that's one of those fun Easter eggs. I think Alex is right. I think that actually was a choice, and very much was a little bit of a tell for people to go back and look at it and go, oh shit, I knew it, because you watch it a second time.
Because it wasn't like he filmed them in that scene and then just filmed the scene at the end where she walks out and turns into Martian Manhunter. That it's not like just that part was new. The whole scene was new. So he knew that she was going to be Martian Manhunter the whole time. And it's just like, just little tells is all it was. And he's always kind of been an ally of Lois's ever since Man of Steel. Like even in Batman vs Superman, he's feeding her information and stuff like that. And he really is trying to like help her. And then this one, he's trying to help her through her grief, which I think is kind of cool. Like it tracks with his character arc. But I 100% agree that it just would have been better if it was just Martha and her having that conversation. Like, it would have been stronger.
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger bummers of this stuff not lasting longer is I actually like, is it Harry Lennox? Is that his name?
Yeah, I believe so. The guy who plays him.
I like him as an actor. And the stuff that I've seen him in, I've always really liked him. He would have been a good addition to, you know, what came next.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Zach didn't know that he wanted him to be Martian until Batman versus Superman. I don't think he knew about it in Man of Steel, if I'm being totally honest. Because like Superman and him meet, and if Superman looks at this guy, he's gonna like hear like a weird heartbeat or something and be like, "You're a fucking alien, aren't you?" Like he's just gonna know. Like I feel like he didn't know
you.
I see you. Yeah, I feel like he didn't know until Batman versus Superman because he had more
in other films.
He's in all three of them.
Yeah.
The general. He's the general in the first one who basically captures Superman, and he's at the end, like when Superman crashes the drone, he's like, that was a $3 million drone or whatever. He's like yelling at him. And then in Batman vs Superman, he like Lois finds him a couple times and like gets information about in that one, I believe it's about the ammunition that Lex used to shoot people in that village. Like he's always kind of been around, like helping people and doing shit, but he's never been like a main player.
But that's the Martian Manhunter guy.
Mm-hmm.
Is he ever turned into his Martian form?
No, that's why.
No, not in the other ones.
No, and that was supposed to be one of those big reveals that you get leading into this like expanded Justice League.
Well, that didn't work.
If you watched all three of these movies, like
in a row,
one after another, it would work. But if you haven't seen Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman in a while, I can understand.
I really enjoyed Man of Steel, but it's been a very long time since I've seen it.
Yeah,
I hated Batman versus Superman, but I think I'll probably give it about 6 months or so, and then maybe watch them kind of like a quick.
Well, watch the extended Batman versus Superman.
Maybe you'll get it on the wheel. You should put this trilogy on the wheel. Count this as a trilogy.
Well, when you finally get to spin, you can add this onto the wheel. But we still got a few more weeks.
Just 2, hopefully. Maybe 1 if I feel brave this week.
I think you can. Remember, I think you can get through 1 because this next one is going to be a lot better. In fact, I just saw that it was again like for $5 on iTunes, and so I just looked at the preview again. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, he'll be okay.
I can make it this time.
You can definitely make it on this one. Yeah, so
I feel like this is the biggest troll, and this is absolutely going to be the worst one. And he's been building me up this whole time.
We already
he's like,
so wait, all you got left are New Nightmare and Freddy's Dead.
Freddy versus
Jason.
Yeah.
No, New Nightmare. That's actually I've actually seen that.
You're all in on it. Don't fucking trick me. No. Don't talk to me about this. I know.
No. Pete's actually seen this. He's actually seen this. He said
and Mike's right. This actually is like it's a good way for you to close it out because it does make the other ones feel like less shitty.
Well, almost every movie makes those feel less shitty.
Just think, you're almost there. You can almost spin the wheel again.
Almost.
Friday the 13th coming right your way.
Fuck or Hellraiser. That. Good God.
I've never seen those at least, so at least he has something new.
So, all right. Well, then next week we will likely have Winter Soldier, or not Winter. Yeah, Winter Soldier and the Falcon, and then we will likely. I plan on watching at least the first Godfather.
Oh, that's right. You have Godfather. Trilogy. Lucky boy.
Yeah.
God. And then so maybe we'll get back on to.
I'll try doing both. I feel like since I had a week off, and I actually watched for the most part pretty good stuff. I feel like I'm like renewed, and so even if these are really bad, I can make it through both.
Well, one of them you've seen, which it's
been a while.
It was really bad because I've seen it, but the other one I think you'll be all right.
Okay.
So,
fingers
all
crossed.
right. Well,
1, 2, Freddy's coming.
Yeah, you got that now. You'll never forget that now.
4, better lock your door.
So, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and I guess until next week. Justice League is finally done. We may never have to talk about DCEU ever again.
We'll see how long that lasts.
I know. Well, we may never have to.
Have to, sure.
Yeah, have to. But as long as you're still watching that Superman television series, and, it's always that little springboard's always going to be available to us.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, talk to you next week.